And Nick, if you wouldn't mind just double checking that I've got paperwork all done correctly on those 5. Thank you. And then the next group of people that I'll call will be Sophia Kenzie, Joshua Forrester, and Henry Greenspan. And I saw a gentleman stand. What's your name, sir?
Joshua.
All right, Joshua, let's see here. Is the last name Forrester?
Yep.
Okay, so I've got Miss Kenzie, Mr. Forrester, and Mr. Greenspan. And then there's another young woman in the back. Are you just here helping out?
I'm a mom.
Okay, a mom. You're a young-looking mom, so I'm not a great. I don't have great vision even with these glasses. So, but you're obviously very, very young-looking. So hopefully that's not offensive. But we've got 3 people here. So let's start with Miss Kenzie.
Hi, Your Honor.
Hello, Miss Kenzie. Nick's pulling up your case. And you have a deferred prosecution that's offered in the file for you, and it's for a charge of possession of alcohol by someone under the age of 21. So that's available to you as an offer. Have you decided whether you'd like to accept that?
I would like to accept it.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me before I make this an order of the court?
No, but I just wanted to let you know that I don't go to seat holder.
I was going to ask you about that, and it also looks like you are under 18. Have you come over 18 yet, or are you still under 18?
No, I'm still under 18.
Okay. So, Mom, is it okay with you if she enters the deferred prosecution?
Yes.
Okay. So I just had to make sure I make a record of that. You're still eligible for the deferred prosecution, Ms. Kenzie. The class that you complete will be different, but it won't be, the outcome will be exactly the same. So we're going to order you to probably to what's called the ISAE
Okay.
online class. Where do you go to school?
Cherry Creek High School, but I do online right now.
You're
for my
on-
senior year.
Okay, online student at Cherry Creek High. So you'll be taking this class online as well. Okay, I'm going to make this an order of the court. You'll have the class that's determined by our staff, but it will likely be the online class. There's a $100 deferred prosecution fee. Are you able to pay that today?
Not today, but yeah, sometime this week.
Okay, I'm going to give you the authority to pay it late. And what Fernanda will probably do is just give you the same deadline for the completion of the class. So you'll send a certificate in and pay by that deadline. That'll give you time to get the money together. I like it when young people are responsible for their own financial circumstances, including fines. So I'm glad you're the one that's going to be responsible for this.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, sir.
And Mom, do you have any questions for me? All right. If you'll just step aside, I'm going to call the other 2 folks and we'll send you back as a group. You're welcome. Joshua Forrester. Mr. Forrester's here.
Hello, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Mr. Forrester, you have one charge. It's a charge of being a minor in possession of alcohol. You are also eligible for the deferred prosecution. Have you decided whether you'd like to accept that or not?
I would like to, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions for me about how it works?
Yeah, is it possible to get a brief overview about how I would sign up for the class and submit the certificate?
Yes, I can briefly do that, but also probation is going to do it for you in a few moments. They're going to give you the information for the class. It's relatively straightforward to get signed up. You go online at CU. They have a number. It's Health Promotions that puts on the class. So Wardenburg, what I used to think of as Wardenburg, but Health Promotions. And you just pick the level that you've been assigned to. You sign up for the class. They'll email you a certificate when you've completed it, and then you email that back to us. So it's a pretty straightforward process. I don't think it can be any easier to get it done than what we've created here. You just have to be thorough in your process and making sure you get signed up and get it done. Okay.
And I also have met with CU, and I think they're deferring to whatever
Okay.
the court does.
So they just told you that whatever we do, that you make sure you get them proof that you've done it?
Yeah.
I didn't know they were doing it that way, but that's helpful to know. And so we will determine the class for you today. We'll give you that deadline. It's really important that you get the proof back to us before that deadline. And then make sure that you get a proof also to see you. And they probably told you how to go ahead and do that. Don't assume that anybody sends anything to us, because they don't. We actually rely on defendants to send the documentation to us. Okay, if you don't have any more questions for me, Mr. Forrest, I'll have you to step aside and I'll call the next defendant.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Mark the different marked. And then you're Mr. Greenspan, is that correct?
That's right, Your Honor.
Hello, Mr. Greenspan. You have a charge of having a fraudulent identification, so it's a different charge. Might be a little different plea offer. Let me just double check that. It is slightly different. A deferred judgment has been offered, and it's not surprising for me to see a deferred judgment when in a fake ID case. They treat those just a little bit more seriously than they do the other charges, and the reason being is that fake ID can be considered a deceptive practice by somebody, and so they want a little more accountability. A deferred judgment requires that you plead guilty to the charge. They will still ultimately ask me to dismiss the charge, but they want a guilty plea up front. And then at the end of the term of the deferred judgment, your case could still be dismissed, but it's a 9-month term for the deferred judgment. They would expect that you complete the C restorative justice class, the CU community living class, and 4 hours of community service. And you're here on the MIP docket, but normally you'd be on a different docket. We're seeing you adding on to this docket. So you're seeing other people with different outcomes. But if you were with a group of people with fake ID charges, you would be seeing a similar outcome for them. So I don't want you to feel like you were singled out. This is what I saw all morning. I saw a lot of people with similar circumstances. But if you want to accept that, you can. You're not required to. As I mentioned to everyone else, if you want to come back and talk to a prosecutor, you could come back on another date. If you want to plead not guilty and set the case for trial, you could do that as well. But if you want to accept it, we can go forward now.
That would just say I'm guilty straight up and then all that. I think I'll meet with the prosecutor another day.
You want to come back on another day?
Yes, please.
All right, that's okay with me as well. So we're going to set you for what's called a disposition and trial setting date. So we'll have you come back on that. It'll be about the next 2 to 4 weeks. I'm going to send you just right out front. They're going to get you that new court date here in just a few moments. I'm not going to presume anything from just because of charge. It doesn't mean anything to me except that you've been charged. But I do like to encourage people to be smart and just to let you know that if someone comes back with a second charge of alcohol-related charge or a fraudulent identification charge, the offers are much different. So be aware of that as you're moving forward. I was at a meeting earlier this year where I heard quite a bit from the police departments about people having multiple fake IDs. They send them in packets, you order them, and you pay a certain amount, and you get more than one. So when they take one, you go and use the other one. The problem is if you use the other one and you get caught again, now you're looking at a bigger outcome, a much more negative outcome. And people who get convicted, or they plead guilty and we turn it into a conviction of fraudulent identification charges, they end up with that on their record. And they might leave CU with a good degree, a good future, but can't get a decent job that they might want because they don't have the clearance that they might need because of that charge that hangs over them. Fraudulent ID, for most of us, think, oh, someone's just using a fake ID to get alcohol. Well, fraudulent ID to the government might mean a lot different. FBI, CIA, big organization that's giving you access to a database, they might look at that as a red flag and they don't want to give that person access to the database. So I encourage young people to be really, really smart about what you're doing with fake identification, because when I was your age, there wasn't that problem. It's now a problem for young people if they get convicted. All right, but I'm going to just send you out front. They'll give you the information that you need and then get you on your way, and we'll see you back for the next court date.
Okay, I have a few questions real quick.
Sure.
My dad insists that I ask that. Is there any chance that there's I forget what he said, but a lot of the information on my ticket was messed up. My address, my license number. He was asking if there's any chance for a dismissal.
So let me take a look. Let me pull up the case again. Or Nick, do you have it?
Yep.
Pull up the summons. I can just look at that real quickly. So it shows a 2200 Baker Drive, number 225 address. Let me tell you what they have to prove.
Right.
They have to allege in the ticket your name. They have to get that right. They have to get right the location of the alleged offense. So that they've put 2200 Baker Drive as the location of the alleged offense. They have to allege a charge. They've, in this case, alleged fraudulent identification. They have to have a date and be able to prove that date. They've alleged September 6th of 2025. The other things that are on the summons, like height, weight, eye color, those types of things don't result in dismissal automatically. Now, a judge could consider them, or the trier of fact, if it was a jury trial, could consider officer mistakes like that as some indication that the officer isn't thoughtful and isn't doing it right. But the essential elements of the charge have to be your name, the location of the offense itself, and then the date of the violation. All of that appears to be on the summons. So those other circumstances might be things that if you were a lawyer, you were cross-examining an officer, you could say, you didn't get this right, you didn't get this right, maybe you didn't get the rest right.
Right.
But it's not ultimately an automatic dismissal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, with the original, the first thing you said, it's to get the deal, does that end up going on your record, or is that?
It does not. So the deferred judgment is just slightly different than the deferred prosecution. You notice for those other people weren't required to plead guilty to anything.
Right.
For you, they're asking you to plead guilty, but they're also asking me to hold the case open and not enter a conviction. So if you satisfied the conditions, which I was explaining to you, the 4 hours of community service, the community living class, I think it was CURJ. If you satisfy those conditions, at the end of that 9-month term, your case would be dismissed. So it wouldn't end up in a conviction on your record. So that's the offer that's there. Now, if you still want to, if you decide, gee, now that I think about it, I just want to accept it, you could.
Right.
But if you want to think about it, talk to your dad and come back on another date, you could still do that. So
What was there's a fee with that too, is it $100?
there is, it's $190 fees for the deferred judgment because you have actually 165 in fees to the deferred judgment for us. And then 25 that you pay to the university who they monitor your community service if you do that.
Right,
So you have 190 for us in fees.
okay. I think I'll just end up taking the deal down.
You want to just do it now?
Yeah, I wasn't clear, I didn't know it doesn't,
I was going to ask you, I didn't want to push you, but if you can hand me that face sheet, we'll just go, we'll
Yeah.
backtrack here. I'm glad you asked some questions, kind of allow you to get it done if you choose to do so. So we can back up. I want to make sure you understand what we're doing. Like I said, and if you had probably been here with the other folks and you were fourth or fifth in line, it wouldn't have been as confusing
Right,
because
right.
you would have seen others do it. But what this really means is that you're entering into an agreement to keep the case open for 9 months. You are pleading guilty to the charge of having a fraudulent identification. At the end of the 9 months, we're going to withdraw the guilty plea. We're going to dismiss the case and seal your record. So at the end of that period, and when your record's sealed, the only people that could ever find out about this case would be law enforcement, public employers, schools. Anybody asks if you have a record for us, our answer would be no such record exists.
Okay,
So you still get the dismissal that the other people are getting perhaps earlier without a plea, but you can still earn that. You just have to do a few more things to get it dismissed.
right, okay,
Right? If that's what you'd like to do, we can go forward with that now.
that sounds great.
All right. When you plead guilty, you're giving up your right to trial and all those other rights that have been previously described to you. Do you understand that?
I do,
Are you doing that voluntarily?
I am,
Are you under the influence of any medications or drugs or alcohol?
no,
And do you understand this charge of having a fraudulent identification?
I do,
Do you agree that there's evidence to support that charge?
I do,
When you do this without the benefit of a lawyer here, I have to make sure that you're comfortable doing this without a lawyer. You could continue the case over and either consult with a lawyer or hire a lawyer, or you could even apply for the public defender.
Right.
Did you understand
I
that?
do,
Are you comfortable going forward without a lawyer?
I am,
Do you understand that a lawyer might do a better job of representing you than you do representing yourself?
yes,
I am going to find that it's a free and voluntary decision to plead guilty to this charge of having a fraudulent identification. That is a violation of section 5612 of the Boulder Revised Code. And that allegedly occurred September 6th of 2025 at 2200 Baker Drive. How do you plead to that charge?
guilty,
Accept that guilty plea. We'll place you on the deferred judgment for the 9-month term. And as I pointed out earlier, you do have the CU Restorative Justice Program to complete. The one downside of you being here this afternoon is there wasn't anybody to explain what CU Restorative Justice is. And want to make sure you fully understand that before you leave. CU Restorative Justice is a program that the university puts on. Restorative justice means they want you to take responsibility for the behavior and to understand the impact it has on others. That's what restorative is all about, is restoring the harm that you may have caused to the community by committing this offense. And there's a specific program at CU to address fake ID cases in connection with CU Restorative Justice. So when you leave here, after you've talked to Fernanda, you're going to need contact information for CURJ so that you can contact them, get yourself scheduled. It's a multi-step process with them. You schedule what's called an intake with them, And then after that intake, you'll actually have a program that you're required to complete. Sometimes it's writing letters to community members and apologizing for your behavior or learning something about what it's like, how you're impacting others with the fake ID. So they'll have some things that they want you to do as part of that CU Restorative Justice program. You will also be required to complete the community living class. That's separate and apart from CURJ. You're going to get proof from community living class when you complete that class. You'll get a letter or certificate. When you complete the CU Restorative Justice program, they're going to get you a completion letter, and then you're going to have the 4 hours of community service to complete. You'll get notice from the SLICE, which is the organization on campus, that you've completed the 4 hours of community service. All three of those pieces of paper need to be emailed to us so that we know you've completed. And in addition, you'll have the $165 in fees to pay to us. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
And can pay the $165 today?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming you have not yet heard from CU, is that, okay, so you may eventually hear from them, and you'll want to make sure that you attend whatever meeting they want you to attend on campus, just like the others. Make sure that if they have something else they want you to comply with, you comply with that. Okay? So I will now send all three of you back to meet with our probation officer. She'll go over all of this with you and then get you all on your way.
Great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Well, that took a turn. Watching in this docket was like watching someone run traffic court as both gavel and guidance counselor, firm, patient, and insistent that young defendants learn the lesson, not just pay the fine. The afternoon opened with Sophia Kenzie, under 18, facing a possession of alcohol charge. Hill offered her a deferred prosecution with an online class, a $100 fee, and dismissal if she stayed clean. He confirmed her mother's consent on the record, then spoke directly to Kenzie. I like it when young people are responsible for their own financial circumstances. His tone balanced authority with encouragement, nudging her toward accountability. E. Joshua Forrester, charged with minor in possession. He asked how the class process worked. Hill broke it down step by step. Sign up through CU's health promotions, get a certificate by email, and then you send it to both the court and CU. Don't assume anybody sends anything for you. It was part ruling, part civics lesson, designed to prevent paperwork mistakes that could snowball. Finally, Inspan, cited for a fake ID, faced a slightly heavier hammer, a 9-month deferred judgment. Hill explained he'd have to plead guilty up front, then complete CU's restorative justice program, a community living class, 4 hours of service, and $165 in fees. If successful, the case would dismiss and seal. Greenspan hesitated, asked about officer errors on his ticket, and Hill walked him through what details mattered legally: name, charge, location, date, and which height, weight, eye color didn't. When Greenspan finally accepted the deal, Hill made sure he understood restorative justice: intake, reflection, apology letters, and community impact awareness. Fake ID may seem small to you, Hill warned, but to the government, it can mean a lot more. What tied it together style: structured, thorough, and didactic. He didn't just impose fines and classes. He explained why deadlines mattered, how records could follow students into jobs, and what each program was designed to teach. His courtroom felt less like a punishment mill and more like a live seminar on responsibility, with the gavel ensuring the lessons stick. If you found this hearing insightful, consider subscribing, hitting the bell, and letting me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one.